What's going on, guys? It's Chris here for the Chris Talks Football Podcast. How is everyone doing? It is episode number 25 then of the series with a quarter century mark, and it's been a rough couple of months of the season, a few dramatic couple of months that have led up to where we are at this point then with the whole top four leagues in England. But today is match day number 28, I believe, or 27 or 28. I'm not too sure about that. No, match day number 27 rather. All teams have played 27 games, and of course the Premier League and all the other divisions have been in progress as well. And of course, probably one of the big talking points we will discuss in today's episode is VAR, of course, that happened at the weekend, and it's toll. We'll also be talking about the top six, and of course the teams that could be fighting for it, because of course with Manchester City's ban, it's wide open now. And also we'll be talking about relegation. We'll also be talking a lot about promotion in the Championship and in Leagues 1 and 2. And also, because the Champions League is on as well, we'll have a little bit of preview for that as well. So hopefully we're in with a good 25th episode of the podcast. So then I think it's only right if we start with the league leaders, Liverpool. And, well, they went into the game defending an unbeaten record, and they come away still defending an unbeaten record against West Ham. Only just, though. They had to come from behind to beat West Ham by 3-2, and Sadio Mane ultimately scoring the goal that won them the game around about 10 minutes from time. But West Ham, for the first time in a long time, actually looked really good. And yeah, it was really good to see, and it was also sort of like, well, it wasn't expected, was it? Especially after West Ham's midweek performance against Manchester City on Wednesday rather, in which they lost 2-0. Yeah, even though Wijnaldum scored for Liverpool early on, Issa Diop then equalised with a header, and then it was Pablo Fornals who swept home a second for West Ham, putting them in the lead with around about 35 minutes left of the game. And they did look okay. It was an improvement from Wednesday's game against Manchester City. And these were two games I thought that they would lose. They did lose, but they did lose, well, I was going to say with a bit of dignity. They didn't really. But obviously Fabianski, who's probably has been well renowned as a really good keeper, didn't really have a good game in this game. He really made quite a few mistakes for the Mane goal, and I believe for the Wijnaldum goal, I think so. But yeah, I mean, you know, Fabianski usually reliable, but it was really good. But yeah, it really wasn't good. But the big thing is that Liverpool equalled the English top flight record of 18 consecutive wins that was set by Manchester City from August to December 2017. And obviously the last time Liverpool dropped points was a 1-1 draw in January. But yeah, the fans still protesting inside the stadium, of course, due to the owners of the club. And yeah, obviously all is still not well at West Ham. They're still in the relegation zone, only 1 point separating Aston Villa and West Ham. But of course Liverpool now still, that's 20, 25, 22 points clear of Manchester City, who of course will not be in the Champions League. But yeah, they did take an early lead due to the fact that Fabianski did not deal with Wijnaldum header. But yeah, really good character from West Ham to hit back with Issa Diop, and then of course Pablo Fornals. You have to admit though, Alisson maybe could have done a little bit better with Issa Diop's header. But yeah, it was a really dead display by their standards in Liverpool until of course they went in. But of course it was pretty much when Salah went in and scored the second goal, where West Ham probably thinking, oh goodness, here we go, we will probably, throw it away again, because West Ham have thrown the most amount of points away from winning positions. They did it, apart from Liverpool, most recently at Brighton, where they went 3-1 up, and of course they went on to draw 3-3. But they really should have more points, West Ham, than they have now. It's just their defending and, their inability for the game management to sort of see games out, because every time they look like they're going to, at least get a result or a good result or maybe even a victory, they throw it away. And this was very much showcased, but it was cruel on West Ham. But it was a chance late for Jared Bowen, of course, the new man, arrived from Hull City, of course, hasn't scored yet for West Ham. And of course, when I was on with Regan in transfer deadline day, we did discuss how Championship the buyers for more than 20 million do struggle to adapt in the Premier League. Most notably, we've seen this quite a fair bit this season, of course. Jared Bowen so far has been one. He hasn't got off the market at West Ham in the first month. Also, the likes of Che Adams hasn't really done a lot ever since his summer move from Birmingham. And of course, when Alexander Mitrovic came to the Premier League when he was at Newcastle, he didn't really do a lot. And he also didn't really do a lot at Fulham as well, despite scoring a few goals for Fulham in the Premier League. He didn't really do much as well. So there does seem to be a bit of a theme. I'm not writing Bowen off completely yet, because we've only seen 3 weeks of him. So there's absolutely nothing to put my opinion on. But, we were just talking about how hard it is, obviously, the level. And it is hard. The Championship does have a lot more games for us. And obviously the fact that the fitness levels in the Championship are going to be a little bit more different than the Premier League. Obviously the quality of opposition will be better, but of course it's just that management of how many games you're going to play through a season. And of course the Championship sides do have to juggle as well a run in the Carabao Cup if they get a good run, and a run in the FA Cup potentially if they good one. So it's definitely going to be a tough time for a player moving up from the Championship, but it can be done. We have seen it before. It can be done. But obviously West Ham still in the bottom three. I mean, where do their problems lie? I mean, defence. Do their problems lie in defence? I'm not really too sure. I mean, the goal stats don't lie. 48 goals they've conceded this season, which is less than 2 a game. But of course, I said their game management, their inability to shut games out. They've lost 4 of the last 5, and of course, after that winning start, David Moyes has been winless in their last 7 games, and it really is maybe starting to be a problem. But as I've said time and time and again, West Ham will not get relegated, in my opinion. I think they have too good a squad. You can't spend £40 million on Sebastian Haller, £45 million on Haller, and go down, because Haller was playing in Europa League quarter-finals with Frankfurt last year, and now he's going to be playing second-tier football? No. And of course, obviously, the owners and the dispute that continues between the fans and the owners. West Ham have 6 wins this season, which is the same as Brighton and Hove Albion, and they're 4 points in sight for the Hammers. And there is still time. There's 11 games left in the season, I believe. So I think now West Ham do need to get a run. They need to have a few games at home, maybe consecutively. But they do need a few home games, just to ease the pressure. They do have Southampton, who we're going to talk about next, in fact. But their away form has been shocking, but their home form, I think, is probably the one thing that's obviously keeping them up this season. They obviously won against Manchester United earlier in the season. They gave a decent account of themselves against Spurs, scoring 2 goals. But still, I do think that maybe, a striker wasn't enough on January transfer deadline day. Maybe they should have brought in a little bit more of experienced defender. Obviously, the back is full of young and experience, with the likes of Pablo Zabaleta being experienced, Aaron Cresswell is very experienced, and of course Diop and Balbuena are still young. So obviously there is still time. But the game against Southampton needs to be a must-win for West Ham. Southampton, we're going to talk about now, are in 12th place, and that is because Southampton managed to keep a clean sheet and score 2 goals against Aston Villa. There was no VAR controversy there, and there was also no VAR controversy against Liverpool. But Yeah, Aston Villa, I mean, they looked doomed, do they? They were really, really awful in that game. And the first goal they conceded, Shane Long, it came off his hip or his, I don't know, his ribs or something like that. He came definitely up upper part of his body. But, yeah, he's pretty much, it's a tight angle and he still manages to get it in. It's poor defending from either Ezri Konsa or Tyrone Mings. And people have said Tyrone Mings is a good defender this season. Has he been a good defender this season? Obviously, at times he's been a good defender this season. But I think the only times where he has been is with Aston Villa's wins and maybe that performance at Old Trafford where Jack Grealish scored the goal. But I don't think he's been, I think he's been overrated this season, Tyrone Mings, because let's not remember, of course, Bournemouth viewed him as nothing but useless piece of garbage when he got loaned out. And if Bournemouth are rejecting you, then you know that your career is suddenly hanging in the balance. But fair play to him, of course, he is in the England squad. He is very tall and very strong. But a note, of course, he does need to use people's heads as a treadmill less, because, of course, he's had a lot of history with the assault. But, yeah, Aston Villa on the whole needed to do better. Of course, with all the talk about West Ham getting relegated, they won't be, as I said, and that's because teams like Aston Villa will be down. I mean, the defensive worries at Aston Villa are much deeper than the ones at West Ham, because they've conceded 4 more goals than West Ham. So that is a problem. And of course, they've lost 3 in a row. So that is another problem. But Southampton, 2 wins out of their last 5 games. I mean, it's okay, but they can't slip up against West Ham. Of course, they're still in the top half, 34 points, 10 points above West Ham with 11 games remaining. They're pretty much safe, but it's still a question of, I don't know, can they survive West Ham without conceding at least? Because even though they conceded first, obviously they went on to score 2 goals against Liverpool, but they do need a performance like Southampton did. And speaking of Che Adams, he provided an insane assist for Stuart Armstrong. It was a 45 yard reverse pass from his own box, and that was late on. Of course, Pepe Reina just got up there. And yeah, Aston Villa's problems really, really worsen. I mean, Pepe Reina hasn't really been good this season. The only thing he's been good at is saving penalties, and even then, the one he saved against Heung-min Son, of course, he didn't really get any help from his defenders, but he still let it in on the rebound, so maybe his handling can come into a little bit of question. But Aston Villa are going to go down. They just are. They haven't got a good squad, and expect the likes of Tyrone Mings to maybe look for a move in the Premier League. Ezri Konsa should have stayed at Brentford. He's done absolutely nothing to contribute. Gilbert may look to stay in the Premier League. He's been a decent fullback for them. Samatta's been okay. Obviously, he's recently arrived. And Harahan's been okay. So maybe him, Gilbert and Jack Grealish should probably look to stay in the Premier League. Obviously, Grealish has had attention from the likes of Spurs and Manchester United for quite a while. But Southampton, they've got some good players. Stuart Armstrong has kind of gone under the radar a little bit. He hasn't really performed up to the expectation. I think they paid 10 million for him. I'm not too sure. But, I mean, coming from Celtic is a pudding league, really. So, what do you really expect from Stuart Armstrong? But yeah, 2 wins in 4. Hearts and Neutrals really got them safe. Shane Long scoring a few goals as well. They still have Danny Ings, of course, but yeah, good to see that Southampton are winning. But as I said, the game against West Ham will be a relegation 6-pointer really for them. They absolutely need the win. And you could say with the fixtures around them, Bournemouth are a team that are in trouble. And this is where we're going to start our VAR chat, because Bournemouth were robbed against Burnley. Burnley, by the way, what form they are in. 4 wins out of their last 5 games has propelled, absolutely slungshot Burnley within 4 points of Manchester United in 5th. 5th. I mean, what was it? A month ago or so, we were talking about Burnley only, staying up because they were in the bottom half of the Premier League. Now they're in 10th, same on points with Arsenal. And they look like they're going to be probably fighting for Europe as well, alongside the likes of Wolves and Sheffield United. There's some really unexpected twists this season, you have to be fair. But Burnley, of course, they won 3-0 against Bournemouth thanks to a goal that shouldn't have counted in the penalty that was scored by Jay Rodriguez. And the reason why it was a penalty was because, well, what happened was the ball, it was a I think it was a cross from Burnley, and apparently it was left out to bounce, but Adam Smith apparently bounced onto his shoulder. He put his shoulder out and it hit either the top of his bicep or the bottom part of his shoulder, and the Burnley players were screaming for handball, and then Bournemouth went on and counter-attacked and scored 17 seconds later. But then the VAR check did occur, they did see a handball, and the goal was disallowed for Bournemouth, and it was pulled back to a penalty for Burnley. I mean, when does that happen? If there is a handball, check it there and then. Don't wait for Bournemouth to go up the other end and score. They've got good attacking threat. Josh King, Callum Wilson was playing today. Ryan Fraser was playing today. All three are back from injuries that they've had during the season. Fraser as well. And it's just incredible why VAR takes, well, not so long. Why it doesn't check it instantly? As soon as there's a lot of players, chanting handball, then the referee has to consult VAR. The play has to be stopped. Of course, it was still kept in play, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. I think really the referee should blow the whistle so that Bournemouth can put the ball out of play to see whether it is a penalty or not. Don't go and deny Bournemouth a clear goal. Well, don't go and deny Bournemouth a perfectly good goal, because even if it was handball, it wasn't clear and obvious for one, and Bournemouth were denied one goal. But they weren't just denied one goal, they were denied 2 goals, because Bournemouth had a corner in the first half that was swung in. It was flicked on by Philip Billing, but the VAR said it was on the shoulder. It was flicked on by Philip Billing and finished by Joshua King to give Bournemouth the lead at the time. But apparently it came off of Philip Billing's hand or arm. It did not. It hit the bottom of the shoulder, Philip Billing. And it's so unlucky because Bournemouth really feel like they were screwed. Bournemouth are in a little bit of trouble. 2 points in 3 defeats in the last 5. Not very good. This is a game they should have won though, because after that third goal, after those decisions, really, they just fell apart. And I can understand that, really. I mean, when you've scored 2 perfectly good goals and have both of them taken away from you, then obviously you're not really going to play because of VAR and because of the decisions that have influenced it. And Eddie Howe probably was bloody fuming at those decisions, because those decisions have cost Bournemouth 3 points that really should have gone towards their survival. But Burnley, they march on. But Bournemouth do have Chelsea. As I said, they have beaten them away. If they can beat Chelsea at home, and they have beaten Manchester United at home a couple of months back, I think. If they can beat Chelsea at home, that would really boost their survival hopes, because they are in trouble. They really are in trouble. Another team who are in trouble are Norwich City. Norwich City lost 3-0 to Wolves. Diogo Jota continuing his great run of form, 2 goals and an assist. There was a little bit of speculation whether Diogo Jota's second goal should be discounted rather for a handball that occurred with Matt Doherty. It was not a handball, so VAR got that decision right. Wolves still in it. 2 wins out of the last 5 is not really very good form, but still, it's good enough for a challenge for Europa League. They've scored 38 goals, which is pretty good. It's actually 6 more than West Ham and 1 less than Arsenal, so good amount of goals to score at this time of the season. And Wolves could be maybe going for back-to-back seasons in Europe for Norwich. I mean, they're down, are they? 3 defeats in the last 4. They can't score a goal with Teemu Pukki. They only had 1 real shot in the entire game, and that was with Max Aarons. The 4 players who are definitely off this summer for Norwich, they're going to go down. Teemu Pukki will probably leave the club, maybe go back to Finland or something like that. Todd Cantwell will stay in the Premier League. I see a team like maybe Bournemouth, I think Bournemouth will stay up. I see a team like maybe Bournemouth to buy him, because I think Todd Cantwell will be a good replacement for David Brooks. Now you're probably thinking, what the hell, Chris? David Brooks is an absolute god at Bournemouth. He is a little bit injury prone though, and I think Cantwell and Brooks in the midfield, oh my goodness, that would just be beautiful for Bournemouth to watch. And with obviously Fraser, Wilson and King up front, it would be a madness for Bournemouth. And Thibaut Pukki, as I said, will go back. Aarons and Lewis are two young fullbacks who have been linked very heavily with Spurs. They could go to Spurs or Chelsea or even Manchester United, who've been linked with Ben Godfrey, their centre-back, and of course Jamal Lewis, their Northern Irish fullback. But I see Tim Krul staying. I think ever since his Newcastle days, he has sort of dropped off. I think obviously after the 2014 World Cup, where he didn't really play much for the likes of Brighton and for Ajax and for PSV rather. You know, I think his quality has sort of diminished it a bit. But he has been their second best player, I think, joined it with Cantwell this season, Tim Krul. He's made some really good saves this season to keep Norwich, you know, not conceding more than the 51 goals. Because if it wasn't down to Krul, there'd probably be almost 70 goals that they've conceded, Norwich City. So it's really a good sight to see Krul performing well. Because, I mean, 5-6 years ago, he was probably one of the best shot stoppers in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's good to see him performing well. But, Wolves, of course, march on into Europe. Another result, Crystal Palace, they maintained their rise after 3 defeats in a row. They had a win against Newcastle United, who themselves are now winless in their last 4. Joe Linton has as much composure as a 16-year-old on his first... Now, I don't know where I'm going with this analogy. As a 16-year-old having sex for the first time. Also, what is going on with the defence at Newcastle? Not really too sure about that. They've let in quite a few goals recently. 41. The same as Everton, which doesn't make them seem like they have any problems. But, of course, the injury problems do stack up for them. But Crystal Palace still looking to try and maybe climb back into the top half of the table where they were for the good part of the season. Patrick Van Aanholt, who's been a good player this season, probably one of the most underrated Crystal Palace players this season. He has been banging in the goals, really important ones as well. He scored the winner at Old Trafford, and he scored a really good free kick here. But another banging goal that was scored this weekend was at Sheffield United. Ender Stevens with one of the goals of the season. Half volley from a corner right into that postage stamp of the top left-hand corner. And this was coming with a 1-1 draw at Brighton and Hove Albion. Neil Maupay finally broke his ducks though, scoring the equaliser for Brighton. That means that Brighton and Hove Albion, 4 draws in the last 5. They still haven't won a lot of games, and they are starting to become a little bit troublesome. And of course, Sheffield United unbeaten in their last 3 games, with 2 of them being wins. So that's very good for them to see. Sander Berge still hasn't scored yet. It's a little bit of a situation to Jared Bowen, because you know, when people sign players from the Belgian league, they really don't know what you're getting. I mean, on one hand, you could get a fantastic box of chocolates that taste very nice. Or on the other hand, you could have a gone-off slice of lamb that tastes like diarrhea. So, yeah, it's a gamble. You know, if you're buying players from leagues that aren't, you know, very, very, I was going to say well-funded, leagues that aren't very reliable, let's just say, to go with. Of course, the Belgian league does have a lot of, you know, key and high players, the likes of Emmanuel Dennis. He's a high player as well. And other young players like Martin van der Voort, a young 17-year-old goalkeeper. But still, it's a little bit unreliable, but hopefully Sander Berge does well, because he's a good signing. And of course, we have yet to see Zivkovic really get into the action at Bramall Lane, but it's a really, really important point for Sheffield United as it keeps their European charge alive. Another important point that I need to raise now is the fact that Manchester City, from the penalty spot, are absolutely atrocious. They've lost, they've now missed, 5 penalties? Yeah, 5 penalties, and Sergio Aguero missed one at the weekend against Leicester City, a game in which they went on to win, only just by Gabriel Jesus' goal. Jesus has been really good, I think. If there's a max exodus at Manchester City in the next 2 seasons, I think Jesus will be probably one of the first players to go. He is probably the best off-the-bench striker there is in the Premier League right now. I mean, his goal-scoring record is just incredible. He scored like 60 goals, and half of that number is the amount of starts he gets in a season in all competitions. He's really been good, and Jesus is still young. I think he's only 22 or 23 years old, so he has a lot of time, maybe a decade and a half maybe, to go, because I think Jesus can go to another top European club, maybe someone like Borussia Dortmund, or maybe Atletico Madrid, or something like that. But notice how I'm not mentioning the Champions League. I will do later. But Arsenal beating Everton 3-2 in an absolute thriller at the Emirates Stadium. Aubameyang has been Arsenal's best striker since Robin van Persie. I mean, I know I'm going far, of course, with Alexis Sanchez, but Alexis Sanchez did not have over 50 goals in a season and a half of football at Arsenal. So, there you go. That's all I'm saying. He might probably be one of the greatest strikers Arsenal's had since Van Persie, I think, in his prime. But 3-2 against Everton. Calvert-Lewin scored early. And Nketiah, though, who of course has been recalled from his loan spell at Leeds, where he did okay, I guess, with a couple of goals here and there. Aubameyang scored twice, for Richarlison also scoring. Arsenal still keep up the pressure. That's Everton's first defeat in 4. These two sides will definitely be battling it out for the Europa League football. I don't think they'll get into the Champions League. I think Arsenal are too far out for that, and I know people are saying, but they're only, 4 points off of Manchester United. But still, the season they've had, I don't think they deserve European football. One team that does deserve European football is Manchester United. Over the last couple of weeks, they've been really good to watch. 2 wins in a row. This one was against Watford. Watford suddenly are in a little bit of trouble. It looks like that Renaissance period has sort of ended for Nigel Pearson, because even though they did create chances, it was similar to the Liverpool game that Watford faced, where they created chances but they weren't clinical enough to finish them. They did have a disallowed goal, and of course VAR once again. It wasn't a disallowed goal. I mean, it comes off the bicep of the player before Troy Deeney scores. So, I don't know, maybe it was a little bit injustice. It's certainly lower than where Adam Smith had his moment. So, yeah, definitely, in my opinion. But, really, really unfortunate for Watford that they didn't convert a chance properly. Now that's their 4th blank this season that they fired. No goals scored. But for Manchester United, Mason Greenwood looking again like a good young talent with lots of potential. Bruno Fernandes, though, scored his first ever goal for Old Trafford, and he looks like he's going to be their key player. I mean, maybe, I think if Pogba can get back to his best, Pogba and Fernandes could be one of the best midfield partnerships in the Premier League for the next 5 or 6 years, because they are really good. Pogba technically is really good, and I think Bruno Fernandes as a playmaker is really good. Of course, he can string passes together. He got his first goal, as I said. Both of them are okay at penalties. Pogba obviously can chip in with assists, but I'm seeing Fernandes. Of course, they played with a 4-2-3-1 formation at Manchester United against Watford, where Fernandes, Martial and Mason Greenwood played as the 3 behind the striker, or was it Lingard? I'm not too sure. It was either Martial, Lingard or James, I think. But yeah, really good to see that Fernandes has got his first goal. Now to the biggest talking point of the Premier League, and that was at Stamford Bridge, where Chelsea beat Tottenham 2-1 to maintain their Champions League qualification hopes. But the big story was the fact that Giovanni Lo Celso was not sent off for something that really should have been sent off. It was, I believe, Lo Celso had a audacious tackle, and I think, I'm not too sure but who the player was, but they really should have been sent off. Lo Celso should have been sent off. In my opinion, that is unacceptable. The challenge was just, like, I'm not even joking, incredibly dreadful. On their challenge with Cesar Azpilicueta, absolutely shocking challenge. But the VAR decided against a red card. But then later on in the game, they overturned it. They said they made a mistake at Stockley Park and he should have been sent off. Well, first of all, why isn't the referee mustering up enough courage? He's just been told that, I think. I think the referee's been told that, it was a mistake, he should have been sent off. The referee should stop the game and send him off. I really don't get it. It's like referees are being pussies nowadays. They can't bloody be asked to go into their pocket and bring out a card. They can't be asked to go to VAR now as soon as it happens. They're just getting lazy. We saw it in the Bournemouth game. We've seen it in this game at Stamford Bridge where it finished 11v11. It is ridiculous, really. You could maybe say it's not VAR's fault. It is VAR's fault, obviously. It's a combination of both. The referees at the video assistant at Stockley Park are to blame for the fact that obviously Lo Celso didn't get sent off for that appalling challenge. And of course the referees are to blame by saying, well, why didn't you go to VAR quicker for the Bournemouth penalty for the Burnley penalty rather, that they were awarded after Bournemouth had scored a perfectly good goal? And why didn't you send him off even though it was a couple minutes after? You could still send him off. It's not like the challenge has ever been erased. It's still happened. It's really incredible. And I've always maintained there's always been an element of doubt with VAR. Ever since the World Cup, of course, there's been the World Cup really presented VAR as something that, is good, but still has a little bit of teething problems. But this season in the Premier League, there's been a lot of mistakes with VAR. Obviously, there's been a lot of sides that it's favoured, rather, with Liverpool being one, but they really need to trial VAR. They need to put it into practice. They've got the footage now from these games that they've played over this season. They've got the footage, I think. Practice for next season, because VAR's going to be in the Premier League now for all I know, for next season. And it's going to be in, I believe, in the EFL as well. And imagine these decisions in the EFL. With the amount of competitive games there are in the EFL, that will really seriously hamper a League 1 or League 2 side, maybe battling relegation or fighting for promotion up to the Championship or to League 1 or something like that. Or maybe even to the Premier League. I think I remember a couple of episodes back I was talking about a QPR Leeds game where Naki Wells handballed it really blatantly and still managed to get away with it. This is why, obviously, it was an argument as to why we need VAR in the Championship and in the rest of the EFL. But this weekend is also an argument as to why VAR should not be implemented yet, because it's not 100% tried and tested. Of course, referees have started to look over to the screens, but as soon as there's any controversial moment, any handball or anything else, go to VAR. That is it. Don't delay it. Don't wait for something to happen and then give it back, because that will really hamper a team's performance, like we saw Bournemouth in the weekend. It really pisses me off the fact that VAR, with all this hype, I say hype, not really, but all this revolutionary technology has not been working well for football as it should, because it really should. This is technology now. In football, one mistake could make a whole season go up or go down, more likely down. And for Tottenham now, the fact that they didn't even go could maybe disturb their season, in my opinion. I think the fact now that even though they finished with 11 players, and even though, Lo Celso hasn't got suspension, he should be suspended for that challenge because it was shocking. But Speaking of the EFL, before we go on to the EFL, rather, I want to take a look at the table. And the table now is looking like this. Liverpool are still, obviously, they're going to win the league. Manchester City second, Leicester City third, and Chelsea fourth. Manchester United fifth, Spurs sixth, Sheffield United seventh. That's all the European places done. Relegation zone, West Ham, Watford, and Norwich. Two of those teams will stay up, Watford and West Ham. Obviously, Norwich will go down. I'm expecting Aston Villa to go down. And it looks like Burnley aren't going down, which is making a mockery of my pre-season predictions. Into the Championship then, and oh boy, I mean the EFL keeps throwing up crazy surprises, and again it's done the same here as West Bromwich Albion had a player sent off, Hal Robson-Kanu scoring 2 as they beat Bristol City away from home. Also Leeds United struggling in an onslaught to beat Reading by 1-0. Preston North End beating Hull City by 2-1. Brentford, are they starting to bowl promotion here? They're still in the playoffs, I believe, in fourth place, but they're 6 points. They've drawn their last 3. They could be right now on 62 points, the same as Leeds United, who have only won 2 in a row, but 2 of their last 5 games. So it's good and bad form, nonetheless. But the rest of the results in the Championship, Barnsley, what are they doing? They beat Fulham, and now they've beaten Middlesbrough. Birmingham City 3, Sheffield Wednesday 3, Charlton Athletic, they got Lyle Taylor scoring again, the former Wimbledon striker. They beat Luton Town by 3-1. Nottingham Forest and QPR played a 0-0 draw. Stoke beat Cardiff by 2-0. Swansea beat Huddersfield Town 3-1, and Wigan won against Millwall. That's a big win for Wigan, that, because it keeps their survival hopes alive. The Championship table then looking like this. West Brom, they're 9 points from third. Surely it looks like they're returning to the Premier League after 2 seasons in the Championship. Yes, Leeds United, after what feels like an eternity, are going to be making their Premier League comeback if they keep this form for the first time in, I think, 17, 18 years, I think, was the last time they were in the Premier League. The battle for the playoffs is really exciting, though, because only 1 point separates Fulham in third and Preston in 6th. In the relegation zone, Wigan 2 points from safety with Huddersfield Town. Barnsley 5 points from safety after 2 wins in a row. If Barnsley can stay up, that's a minor miracle that Gerhard Struber has worked at that club. And Luton Town, I mean, they look like they're going down despite 2 wins in their past 3. League One. And the big news is Rotherham stay top. Freddie Ladapo, the former Crystal Palace player, he scored to keep Rotherham up on top. A lot of good teams right now in the top 6 that are in form. Rotherham have won, 4 of their last 5. Coventry City have won every single one of their past 5 games. They're joint on points on top. The real difference is, though, Sunderland 4 wins in a row. Wycombe Wanderers 3 wins out of their last 4 games. Peterborough United 4 wins out of their last 5 games. Fleetwood Town 5 straight wins. Portsmouth 3 wins out of 5. Gillingham, Gillingham are unbeaten in the last 5 games. They're currently in 10th place. 10 points separate Rotherham at top and Gillingham in 10th. It's crazy. But the results from League One, Accrington Stanley lost to Rotherham. Wimbledon drew with Blackpool 0-0. Fleetwood Town beat Portsmouth by 1-0. Oxford United beat Ipswich 1-0. Lincoln and Gillingham played out a 0-0 draw. MK Dons beat Bolton 1-0. Coventry City beat Rochdale 2-1. Shrewsbury Town beat Doncaster 1-0. Southend United's poor season continues, losing 3-2 to Burton. Sunderland 3, Bristol Rovers 0, and Wycombe Wanderers with Adebayo Akinfenwa scoring 3-1 against Tranmere. So the teams in League One who look like they're going down. Bolton, they've lost 4 in a row. Southend are going down, they've lost 5 in a row. Tranmere Rovers, they're going down as well. They've lost 4 out of their last 5. And MK Dons as well, even though they're near the bottom of the table, 36 points on 18th. Obviously, they're going to survive because they're 13 points ahead of Tranmere. They are unbeaten in their last 5 games as well, so they might be a team to watch out if they start climbing the table, maybe into the top half. Into League 2, and again, hotting up in the playoff. The battle for that third and final automatic promotion spot between Crewe, Exeter and Plymouth keeps hotting up. Crewe Alexandra beat Macclesfield Town by 2-0. Exeter City, they lost to Northampton by 2-0. And Plymouth could not take advantage of that. They drew 0-0 at Cambridge. Swindon Town, 3 wins out of their past 4 games. They beat Grimsby Town by 3-1. Really good result for them. Cheltenham, 3 wins in a row. They keep up their push potentially for promotion. They beat Mansfield by 1-0. Ruben Reid getting his goal there. Northampton, of course, into the playoffs after beating Exeter. Also, Port Vale, look like they may push his charge for the playoffs. John Askey, of course, who won promotion from the National League with Macclesfield. Can he maybe do it again? His second promotion in the last 3 seasons. Towards the bottom of the table, Stevenage are going down. They've lost their last 9 games straight. That is embarrassing for Stevenage. Macclesfield look like they're going to survive. They're also at the bottom of the table, or near the bottom of the table rather. Carlisle United drew with Morecambe 2-2. Crawley Town beat Stevenage 2-0. Leyton Orient drew at home to Oldham Athletic. Newport County beat Bradford City by 2-1. Salford City lost to Colchester United by 2-1. Scunthorpe beat Forest Green, another team looking for promotion, 1-0. And of course, as I said, Walsall drew with Port Vale 2-2. Josh Gordon and Elijah Adebayo scoring the goals for Walsall. But that is it for the EFL. The Champions League did occur in midweek, and of course it is occurring as we speak right now. And the results look for very interesting reading. The 3 results I would like to talk about is the fact that Tottenham lost to Leipzig. Now, Timo Werner scored a penalty. I did say Tottenham would sort of breeze past Leipzig, but for some reason they're not really doing that, and I don't really know why. Is that because maybe of the injuries that Tottenham have? I mean, obviously Tottenham are a little bit starved with injuries, but, surely they could maybe take a game to Leipzig, because even though they are leading in the Bundesliga, it's not as if Leipzig are Bayern Munich. They haven't scored 7 past them the last time that a German side came to Munich. But it is a little bit concerning with the fact that obviously Leipzig have got an away goal, let's not forget, because away goals are so important. But that was their first knockout goal, Red Bull Leipzig. But it's bleed for Spurs. They've got Son Heung-min out with a broken arm, and Harry Kane. It's the 2 most important players, in my opinion, for them. And Hugo Lloris is probably their man of the match, keeping their really good saves. Angelino, the man on loan from Manchester City, had his shot turned onto the post, and Werner had a few saves denying. But after the second half, Spurs did have a few chances with the Hungarian goalkeeper for Leipzig, Peter Gulácsi, turning a few off the post. But I'm really liking the look of Leipzig's manager, Julian Nagelsmann. I think he could take charge of the likes of Dortmund, Bayern Munich, maybe even a side in England, maybe Manchester City. You never know if Guardiola walks out when his contract expires. But Werner's really become a class act. I mean, he's worth $100 million, $100 million euros in his market value. Really good. And of course, that's his, I believe, 20th goal already this season in all competitions, so that's really good. But Hugo Lloris, of course, man of the match. 4 big saves he made to keep this in the tie. But another really good result. This guy, Erling Braut Haaland, is a monster. I mean, what is going on with this kid? He's remarkable. 39 goals in 29 appearances, and 12 in 8 since joining in January for Dortmund. incredible. He scored 2 goals at either side of a Neymar goal to make sure that Dortmund, who've got their best team in a couple of years since they won their last Bundesliga title, Dortmund. They've got their best side. It looks like they might be going far into the Champions League. But PSG do have that away goal. All PSG needs is a 1-0 victory and they're through. But Haaland is just an absolute monster. But the biggest result, you have to say, is Atletico Madrid 1, Liverpool 0. Now, Liverpool have, first defeat of the season in all competitions. And really, this happened in the 4th minute where Saul Niguez scored for them. But, it was deflected off of Fabinho. The return leg is on Wednesday, 11 March. But they didn't make a single shot on target. And that's a shock, considering the amount of form that Liverpool are in goal-scoring form. And I think this was to be expected, the fact that Liverpool wouldn't really get a lot of chances because, of course, Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone does set his teams up to be very tight at the back. And I do think that is why Liverpool didn't score. But I think at home, they're formidable at Anfield, are they? They've beaten West Ham 3-2, come back. They'll make a comeback against Atletico Madrid. I think it'll be only time. Only time will tell, really, for them. But the Champions League also threw up a result. Atalanta 4, Valencia 1. Atalanta doing okay. Josip Ilicic is having a mad season. I think that's double digits now. He's got in goals, replacing the goals that Duvan Zapata had last season. He's still at the club, just not scoring as much. The ties today, though, who are about to kick off, in fact, in a couple of minutes. Chelsea against Bayern Munich at home. That's going to be big, but I think Bayern Munich are going to win that. They're either going to win or draw. I don't think they'll lose away. I think their away form has been really good. The most recent away game was a 4-0 thumping of Hertha Berlin in the Bundesliga. And Napoli against Barcelona tonight, of course. I really fully expect Barcelona to win that. Of course, obviously Barcelona did make a little bit of controversial headlines when Middlesbrough flop Martin Braithwaite signed for Barcelona. That guy must be living the dream. He assisted Messi. Incredible stuff for Martin Braithwaite. And then tomorrow, we will see how much interest Manchester City take at the Bernabeu when they take on Real Madrid. Lyon also play Juventus. I fancy Juventus to win that game, that tie, in fact. Real Madrid against Manchester City. If Manchester City play like I think they're going to play, I think they're not really going to take too much in the Champions League. Or the more likely outcome is that they're going to take the Champions League seriously. But Real Madrid are in really good form this season. They're 2 points behind Barcelona at the top of La Liga. This is a really good game. This is one to watch. But I think if Manchester City are going to win this Champions League, this won't be their toughest test. 100%. I'm thinking a team. I'm thinking 3 teams will really give Manchester City a run: Liverpool, Borussia Dortmund, and also Juventus. Cristiano Ronaldo, 1,000th game in football, 11 consecutive games he has scored in. That's incredible. He is a record breaker in Italy, in England, and in Spain. Marvellous, absolutely marvellous. But also in the Europa League, obviously we had the Europa League as well that happened in midweek. The English clubs, Manchester United had a VAR, I think they had a VAR goal ruled for Club Brugge with Emmanuel Dennis, as I said. He scored the equaliser. Of course, Anthony Martial scores an away goal for Manchester United, meaning they take a 1-1 draw. Celtic drew with Copenhagen. It was a really good game, in fact. Odsonne Edouard, who's actually attracted interest from the likes of Leicester and Bournemouth. He looks like he's a decent player. Inter Milan, I think, are going to win this Europa League. I don't think that Arsenal, Manchester United will win it anymore. I think it's going to be Inter Milan. Kai Havertz scoring for Leverkusen as they beat Porto 2-1. Benfica losing out to Shakhtar Donetsk by 2-1. Ajax who went to the semi-final last season, lost to Getafe, who have a Watford right-back reject in their defence in Alan Neom. It was so funny. Alan Neom apparently got injured, and Ryan Babel was mocking him for it, making the crybaby actions and all that. And it was really, really funny. You should actually watch it. And Arsenal went to Greece and got a 1-0 victory against Olympiacos. And speaking of victories, Rangers beating Sporting Braga by 3-2, a comeback in the second half after Braga scored twice. And Wolverhampton Wanderers, Diego Jota, absolutely untouchable. His hat-trick against Espanyol. But that is it, guys, for this edition of the Chris Talks Football Podcast. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Sorry that it's long again. Lot to go through. We will have a Premier League roundup next weekend with the Champions League and Europa League as well. And episode number 26 next weekend. And as always, guys, I will talk to you next time. But for now, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Like this video. And yeah, hopefully we can get some new subscribers to the channel. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. And hopefully you guys have a really good week.